next is a special reading. One of the contributors to Best Buy Short Stories, who also had books out, both nonfiction and erotica, under different names. Unfortunately, he died in October, and I knew he had cancer, and I asked him, you know, how will I know when you're gone? And he said, when I don't respond to your emails anymore. So we were pretty sure, because I wasn't hearing from him. And you know, you'd think with the Book and the Lammy Awards, the Bisexual Book Awards, and the Rainbow Awards, you know, someone would be excited. So I did go online, and you know, there wasn't a memorial page for him. And that person is known as James Williams, or William Henkin, Dr. William Henkin, who was a therapist and a writer, and a therapist for people who, like what you were talking about, Rory, people who are, you know, sexual minorities, gender minorities, kinky, you know, people who other therapists might not understand. So, you know, he did a great service. And he wrote a vampire story for our book, Best Buy Short Stories. So, since he's not here to read it, Ann Herendeen, who's been on this stage many times, who is also in the book with her own story that we've all heard and love, but she will come up and read James Williams' vampire story as a tribute to him. So come on up, Ann.
I'm just going to read a small part of it that will fit into the allotted time. I was in France. I was at a party, and I spied a long-haired Asiatic boy in a purple-black tunic that lit his parchment skin with moonly hues, whose simple presence made his every utterance an invitation, whose wide, slow eyes never seemed to blink. He had been taking my account while I was reading the temper of the room, so when I reached him with my gaze, his own gaze undressed me as if he already stood there naked. His stare was wholly undefiled, hid nothing, offered everything. Do you know what I am, I wondered, as nearly shocked as I have ever been. But before I even knew that I had had that thought, he turned aside to speak to the woman next to him, deliberately showing me the perfect tender skin of his throat and its softly pulsing artery. Then, when we stood alone, the boy held up a finger. There is one condition. And when I did not reply, because in truth I was speechless, he lowered the finger until it pointed toward the woman he had turned to when I first set eyes on him. This is my sister, whom I vowed to protect when our parents were turned by someone like you. She wants to find them, so we must go together. In exchange for me, therefore, you will also have to take her. Presumption? Audacity. I will not be dictated to, especially by some upstart. I took him in my arms right then, gripped his hair, threw back his head, and sank my teeth as deeply as I have ever done. I meant to feed, I meant to rape, I meant to conquer, I meant to destroy. I did not bite in love, but in revenge, in pride, in wrath, in gluttony. My satisfaction was to be his gasping death, my pleasure his ravishment, destruction, eternal servitude. I wanted nothing less than everything from him, and everything is what I meant to take. When I had fed, I flung the body away. I felt a deliberate hand grip my elbow. I spun to it, still frenzied, frothing in my rage, blood dripping from my face and smeared all over my shirt and hands. And there was the woman the boy had pointed out. I could see she was his sister in the skin and lips and eyes. There was even a similar feline grace. But as sometimes happens between or among siblings, her proportions were just slightly off. Texture, color, angle, and curve. Everything that was beautiful in him turned horrifying and wrong in her. Surprisingly fast and surprisingly strong, she threw herself on me and actually tried to kiss me, and I could not fend her off. Frantic in desperation, all but weeping to be rid of her, I locked my teeth around her vein and bit. She stopped as if I'd nailed her brain. Despite all my long history of love and pleasure with women as well as with men, with the living and the dead, with royalty and commoners, her blood intoxicated me as no blood ever had. I did not like it, not at all. I did not like the way it gushed. I did not like its eager overripeness. I did not like the lightheadedness that came over me with its infusion. But her grip relaxed, and for that I was glad. I pushed her off me and she staggered back, an unhurried smile coming slowly to her face. I do not know how long I stood there, watching as if waiting for her corpse to decompose. I had taken her as I had taken thousands over my course of time, but unlike all the others, she did not reawaken. Her eyelids did not flutter. She did not inspire with that reverse rattle I have come to revere. She only lay where she had fallen, dead not only to the world, but dead as well to me. Except she was not. When I got her home, I laid her body down in the sarcophagus I generally use to curdle people's blood, and contemplated what my lust for the boy had wrought. I did not even want this package I was encumbered with. She slumbered not nor slept, but on the other hand, neither did she decompose. She had escaped the curse of living without encountering the curse of dying. I felt as if I were dealing with a riddle from the Sphinx. What goes on 4 legs in the morning? What is the sound of one hand? How many angels dance? Like you and me, Rogue, she was neither living nor dead, neither one thing nor the other. Yet I could not reach her. Though I could not say whether she was aware of her state or not, she had, like us, entered a condition of suspended inanimation. But while I did not really comprehend her sort, I came to think that in her incomplete transition lay the answer to my longer-standing riddle about eternity. Where is she? And where then, my fine and succulent immortal, are we? Finally, I kissed her again, this time on the lips, and then I recognized something about her at last. It was in the promise of a smile that seemed to hover just behind her facial mask, some attitude of knowing that blended with contempt. Do you remember our last night together when we flew in tandem over all the capitals on earth, seeing the world through every dawn? Toward Southeast Asia, you found an estimable couple and plunged down on them far too fast to recognize my alarm that they had babies and were to be considered safe from our predations. You fed and you were drunk with blood and howled so loudly like some crazed banshee that I thought you'd bring the village's enforcers on the run, and so I dragged you away. But before we left, I had a look at the sleeping, then bestirring pair you'd abandoned, like leftovers from a too sumptuous feast, and the lazy look of malevolent curiosity that passed across the woman's mouth was just the look I saw today on the face of the eager sister. The boy and girl I turned today were long descendants of the couple you enjoyed, I feel certain.